And so before we get into some of the initiatives that you've been involved in, I wonder if you could expand a bit on why fiscal responsibility has been such an important issue for you.
Well, I think that fundamentally, I don't believe that government is in concept any different from a family budget or a business budget. And of course, I've run a family budget for many decades myself, and I have also managed a number of businesses and had to deal with the choices that are required by good, solid fiscal management to get costs and revenues and expenses in line, and to manage debt and to do it in a sustainable way so it doesn't catch up with you. And I don't think government is fundamentally different. Government has different tools. Government has different approaches sometimes, and of course, government has, unfortunately or fortunately, looking at how you look at it, has different recourse in terms of debt. But that doesn't change the fundamentals that if you operate a government fundamentally differently from a family budget or a business budget, it does catch up with you. And, we've got a whole line of thought out there right now in this country that what I just said is not true. And that, in fact, governments can have their cake and eat it too. And to that, I say, look around the world at examples of governments that have tried to have their cake and eat it too, and it doesn't work too well. And you could go through any number of examples of that in countries in Europe or South America. You have a current example going on in Turkey, for example. So you can't escape the music at some point, and many of my colleagues are busy trying to escape the music in one way, shape, or form, and so I think we've gotten away from that, and I think it's dangerous to our national security, and so that's fundamentally, where I'm coming from. I think that, and to the point of my quote that you cited there, I also don't think budgets are these stark pieces of paper. They reflect public values and public policy and public judgments about where to allocate resources, where to allocate burdens, where to try to solve the problems of our country, both short-term, mid-term, long-term, where to allocate the responsibilities for those. So these are policy judgments. They cannot be treated as kind of ancillary exercises at the end of the day for some kind of a troublesome exercise that you have to go through once you've decided what you want to do. That's not how it works for me.
You remind me, and I know Phil probably had the same thought when you were saying that one of our favorite field exercises is the budget challenge, principles and priorities, in which people do just that. They sit around in small groups and make those choices, because you're right, it's really a matter of setting priorities and then how you make it all add up.
And I would say in that respect, I've taken the budget challenge or various forms of it, because there are a number of budget challenges out there, and I send it periodically to my constituents and say, okay, what do you think about the budget challenge? And I think the interesting point to make there is that so often these discussions on budgets devolve into an overall policy debate about the level of government spending. Should it be higher or lower? Or the level of government taxation, should it be higher or lower? Or the level of government debt, should it be higher or lower? To me, that's not the point. The point is that at the end of the day, when you make your judgments about revenues, expenses, and debt, that it adds up to a fiscally sustainable package. So, for example, sometimes I hear people say, well, Representative Case, you're so into the budget, that must mean that you're a small government, small tax, small debt guy. And that's not the case. And I'm just trying to get to a balance. And if the judgment is that we need a larger government that is financed by some level of taxation different from what we have today, if that's the judgment, and if I agree with it, okay, I do. But if it's a small government and the revenue balance is different, that's okay too. The point is that whatever your judgments are on your level of income and expenses, recognizing that there are consequences to all of those levels and to debt as well, that it add up to a fiscally sustainable package. So it's not for me the end debate about the size and cost of government and allocation of revenues, but it is about that it be fiscally responsible.
Yeah, that was one of the things that Paul Tsongas emphasized when the Concord Coalition was founded 30 years ago, this year, as a matter of fact, is that, and I've been with the Concord Coalition since the beginning. And one of the, one of the things he used to say is we don't get into the debate over big government versus small government. It's the point is you have to pay for the size government that you want and make those trade-offs.